trying to, looking around at all the animals, and we went to the lions. We always want to go, my wife and I always want to go to the lions pen and kind of see where they're at, if they have a lion den or anything. And so we'll go and kind of look at it. And anyway, the lion wasn't out that day. We're like, man. And so I had, okay. And so we're like, well, okay. So we were walking around, and it wasn't very long after we weren't very far, almost halfway across the zoo. We could hear, woo, woo. He's awake. He's out. Come on. And man, we took off running. But I tell you what, the amazing thing of the lion is that, well, here's some stats. You know, the male lion averages about 420 pounds. He stands 4 foot at the shoulder, and he's 10 foot long from the nose to the tail. He has 2.5 inch long canine teeth and 1.5 inch long retractable claws. The mane can be 9 inches long and starts growing when he's about 2 years old, and he reaches full length about 5 or 6 years old. So 9 inches of hair, you know, it's just a big cat. I mean, things are massive. Now the females, they're average about 320. They stand 3'3" at the shoulder, 8 feet long, nose to tail, 2 inch long canine teeth, 1.25 inch retractable claws. And so again, these lions are amazing creatures. The strength. They have strong muscular legs, which enables the lion to deliver blows with his forepaws heavy enough to break a zebra's back. And so if they're in the right position and if they swat just the right thing, they can break a zebra's back. And so that is a powerful swat. The biggest jump that they've had is a 12-foot vertical and a 36-foot horizontal. And then the roar, they can be heard at distances over 5 miles away. When they let it rip, they can be heard 5 miles away. And so for us on the other side of the zoo was nothing for him to just kind of, he wasn't really letting out, you know, a loud roar or anything, but if he would let it belt, he would be heard 5 miles away. And so the max speed is 30 miles an hour over 50-yard distance. The fastest human, you know, we look at the Olympics that just passed, and you see the sprinters, these world-class sprinters, when they go, they can reach 24 miles an hour. You know, the average human is about 17 miles an hour. And so the world-class sprinter is nothing for a lion to just take them. It's just, you know, lean meat for him because there's not much fat on them. But so I guess if the lion's on a diet, he can take them sprinters, you know. But yeah, 30 miles an hour, so he can overcome a sprinter in no time flat. But I tell you what, and the lions, they live in a group called prides. When there's they're family groups, and it's led by 1 or 2 males, and the rest are all females and such. And when the males get old enough, they kick the males out to a bachelor pride. But the amazing thing is that I find it fascinating as again, I didn't think nothing about it as a young kid. Cool, that's a lion's pride. All right, cool. But in the Word of God, why did Satan get kicked out of heaven? Because he had pride. And so I said, kind of tying it together. You know, the lions form prides, and Satan was exactly why he was cast out of heaven. Let's turn over to Isaiah 14. Isaiah 14, and we'll see what I'm talking about here. Isaiah 14, and we'll start in verse 13. Isaiah, I'll tell you what, we'll start in verse 12. Isaiah 14:12. How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How art thou cut down to the ground, which thou didst weaken the nations? For thou hast said in thine heart, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will sit also upon the mount of the congregation in the side of the north. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High. And so there's Satan, you know, then called Lucifer, say, you know what, he had pride in his heart. I'm going to ascend above God. And so that pride that he had is what kicked him out of heaven. And so again, I find it very interesting that God uses here the lions, you know, and calling them prides. And again, pride in the Bible, throughout the Bible, is not looked at in a good light. As a matter of fact, Proverbs 16:18, pride goeth before destruction, and a haughty spirit before the fall. So someone is very prideful in their lives and they're carrying it out, Yeah, they're gonna fall here very soon. And so pride goes before destruction, and a haughty spirit before the fall. And so as we see here, we see as a roaring lion. Here it is. Peter is describing our adversary. Let's go back to our text in 1 Peter 5:8. Let me get back there. And so here we are, be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, as a roaring lion. The next part of this, walketh about, seeking whom he may devour. Walketh about, seeking whom he may devour. Lions attack in organized groups, and they separate the slower animal. They're looking at a gazelles or zebras or anything else. And so they're going to look for the ones that are weaker. And so they're going to look for the easy pickings. They're not going to go for the one that's strongest and really bouncing around. And so there's some animals out there like the little gazelles to show their stamina and their strength before some cats. They'll actually start prancing really high leaps, jumping almost 8-10 feet high in the air. They're showing, say, look, my legs are very strong. Try to come after me. Look what I got. And so they're like, man, I ain't gonna mess with that guy. He got some stamina. Never mind. Let me go look for the little ones or whatever. And so these lions start doing this kind of stuff. And so they're walking about seeking whom he may devour. Satan is on the prowl looking for easy prey, just as these lions are doing the exact same thing. They're looking around there. The first thing I want to look at, possibly that it happens is sickness. Sickness is there's a sick animal, and the lion's like, he's looking kind of sickly, kind of a little pale in the face, and it just don't look too good. All right, I'm going to take him. He's not going to be able to outrun me. Probably has a fever. I don't know. We can just go take him down. And so these lions are going to go after that. And it is amazing that how these lions coordinate their attacks, and they go through all their little things. But there's one usually strategically placed, and the other ones are going to kind of flush them towards that area. And so Satan does do the exact same thing. He has his devils that go out there, and he'll kind of lay them away. You go around there. He'll kind of coordinate some attacks if we're not watching, and if we're kind of sickly. And so right here, the sickness the main thing that I'm talking about here now is the sickness of sin. That's been passed down from generations to generations. We are born into this world with this sickness of sin. We don't, again, it's a very good illustration. Babies, when they come in, you don't teach a baby how to be bad. What do they know how to do that really well on their own. They're always getting in trouble. They're like, hey, don't be doing that. Yeah, whatever. You don't have to teach a baby how to do bad things. Why? Because they're sinners. They're little sinners. Just like we're bigger sinners. That's all it is. And so in Romans 5:12, wherefore as by one man sin entered into the world, and death by sin, so death passed unto all men, for all have sinned. And so it's been passed down from generation to generation. So there's no escaping of this. And so we have this bondage of sin that each and every one of us are born with. And so some of them we're blinded to the fact of the sin, and some of us have been shown that we are sinners. And so, but we had to come to that point that we realize that we are sinners, and there's a loving God that has done something for us about that sin, and has solved the problem for our sin. And so we got to look at that. So there's that sickness, and so that sickness that Satan can take out, and there'll be easy picking, for the devil to be able to take them out. Also, weakness. Another thing is weakness. When we try to do things on our own self without God's help, we will fail. We try to do things, I have a better idea, God, let me do this. And we go and try to do things without God's help, we fail each and every time. We try to do it in our own strength, we can't do it. And why? Because God is our strength. And so when we try to get ahead of God, and whatever it might be, we might be praying about something, the leadership of God to do something, and we don't get an answer. Okay, well, and God might have a particular reason why He's not answering you yet. But you get in your mind, I know better than God. I know exactly what I'm doing. Watch out. And start pushing through, we're going to fail each and every time. The people that do that, and those Christians that are doing that, those are going to be easy pickings, because Satan can see they don't have the power of God in their lives. These are weak Christians right here. I want to get them. They're easy. And so he can see these kinds of things. He can recognize when God is in their lives, when God is strong in our lives, and again, like I mentioned in our Sunday school class, we're flying that banner, and we're going, and everything's in our lives, when we're going just fine, we're in the will of God, we're not as easy picking